Just a couple of housekeeping things, I guess. This is a hybrid meeting, which means that we do have people here live with me here presenting at Cockatoo Community Complex. We've also got people sitting watching me on a screen at Worrell Reserve Emerald. And we do also have some presenters coming in online. So there may be some lag with the audio. It may come through a little bit slower here on the speaker. Their lips might be a little bit out of sync. We chose this format because we know not everybody can get to the relief centres, either here or at Emerald. And also, we know that a lot of people in this area are more so affected with the power outages and telecommunications outages. So we wanted to have something in person here, and then anyone from across the Shire can actually connect in wirelessly to get the information that you'll be getting tonight as well. We are running a Q&A as part of this, which means within the room here, you will notice that on the table, and it will be the same at Emerald, we have sticky notes on the tables. All the presenters are going to run through their information. Please, if you think of any questions, write them down on here so you don't forget them. You can also give them to my friend Greg here. Put your hand up, Greg. And our IT friend out at Emerald, put your hand up out there, mate. I'm only assuming you're doing it. And they will actually put that in the Q&A system for me. In the last 20 minutes of this meeting, I will then put those questions to the presenters. So as another little note, I want you to know that if there are some really specific questions in there, we've got 20 minutes to really hit the hard-hitting ones with the guests we've got tonight. But I will let you know any question that is put through that Q&A system, we will get the answer to. If we can't answer you tonight, we will make sure we get the answer and we'll present it here at the Relief Centre in Cockatoo and Emerald. And we'll also make sure that it's on the internet for those at home watching to access online. So please rest assured that if we don't get to your questions tonight, we definitely will get back to you, and they're the avenues that we will be using to close the loop with you. That being said, I would like to jump into the meeting and start inviting up my guest speakers. Before I do, I'd like to acknowledge that here in Cockatoo and at Emerald, we are both on the lands of the Wurundjeri people, and I would like to pay my respects to their elders, past and present. We're going to hear from Andy, the Regional Controller, first for a general situation update. And I'll let him introduce himself in his role. I won't steal his thunder. Over to you, Andy.
Thanks, Mark. Hopefully everyone can hear me in the...
Is that on?
In the room.
Sorry, we're just turning on the speaker.
Let us know when you're ready to go, Mark.
Good to go. Good to go, mate.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. And it's a great opportunity for us to come and talk to you about the impacts of the storm event and give you the opportunity to ask any questions that you might have, noting that some of those are going to be potentially a little bit tricky and potentially linked to your individual circumstance, so hard to answer in a global sort of meeting. But for those up here at Emerald, I'll hang around after the meeting and answer any questions you've got. I'll be the last person to leave. So if you've got anything that you want answered, I'm more than happy to do that. As Mark said, my name's Andrew O'Connell. I'm a commander with Fire Rescue Victoria, and my role this week has been to be the regional controller for the southern metropolitan region of Melbourne. So everywhere from Rosebud all the way up through here, and looking after any major incident or event that occurs across that footprint. And as you could see, we had quite a significant event occur across not just my footprint, but also the eastern metropolitan region, the northern metropolitan region, up through the Grampian. So the whole state's been affected by some sort of an emergency almost over this last week. So my role as a regional controller is to try and tie together all the local government agencies, all the utility companies, so that we have a joined up comprehensive approach to whatever we need to do to understand, so that we know that what the consequences are, and we support the community to try and get you back to as normal level of functioning as quickly as possible as we can. So in the lead up to Tuesday, we knew that there was going to be a very significant fire weather day, so catastrophic fire conditions up in the Mallee, and also some the possibility, and it's always only a possibility, of severe thunderstorms which are going to affect the Melbourne metropolitan region and down through Western and South Gippsland. So we had the regional control team, myself and all the agency commanders from SES, CFA, Forest Fire Management, Department of Health, all in the Dandenong Regional Control Centre, in position, ready to go, looking at what was happening around the state and how we could best respond to those particular events. We could see that there's some really nasty fires occurring up around Horsham and Pomonal and places. And unfortunately up there, they lost 44 homes as a result of those particular fires. Then we could start to see the thunderstorms starting to build in intensity and come down through the northern parts of Victoria. And it got down to Lara, and there was a significant cell that went across Lara with a lot of damage and a lot of buildings that required some assistance. And we could see that pop up, and we could see the thunderstorm getting quite bad. So as soon as we saw that and we could understand the severity of the thunderstorms, we brought some people into our incident management centre in Dandenong so that we had a full complement of people there ready to respond if those storms continued across the bay and affected, unfortunately, our parts of Melbourne. Thunderstorms are unpredictable, so we don't always get to choose where they are and where they are. There's plenty of Victoria which only got some heavy rain and some minor damage. Unfortunately for you, you happen to be probably the epicentre of where the storms were at their most severe, and it's taken a fair toll on the community. So the first major storm, as I said, to hit was Lara. That knocked out two very important transmission lines, which transmit a lot of power across Victoria. So as soon as that happened, we could see a lot of people start to go off power. So we've got a live power dashboard there, and we could start to see the power impacts already starting to occur. That was going to be one of the things that we were obviously going to have to manage. We could then see the request for assistance coming in to CFA escalating quite quickly. Now, in total, and I'll let CFA let SES talk to their response, but in total, there's about 1,783 requests for assistance across the southern and eastern suburbs. That's a lot. That overwhelms the local units quite quickly. So we brought in as many from other areas as we possibly could, but it's too many to get to at once. At the height of the storms, or probably for about an hour after the height of the storms, we had 530,000 people off power. That's an enormous amount of people off power. Fortunately now, it's down below 3,000. That's great news, unless you're one of the 3,000. And I get that. But there's a limit to how much they can get back on. When you're driving around your local community, you'll have seen the devastation that's been caused to the transmission network and how hard the crews are working to get it restored. They've done a really good job, but it's, again, cold comfort for those if you're in the 3,000. So the scale of this emergency was really quite significant. And in all honesty, we didn't actually understand how significant it was in the early stages, because not only did it take out power, but it took out a lot of telephone mobile towers. It took out the NBN, because NBN requires power to run. So we knew that there were parts of the community out there who would need assistance that might not be able to get in contact with the emergency services. And that's always a challenge for us, and will be going forward. And the regional control team, one of the things I need to get my hand around pretty quickly is the impacts to the community, what the consequences are. So rather than the request for one individual property, what is on a global scale is going to have the most impact upon the most people across our community? And some of those things were quite significant. So I always prioritise our actions on what's important to look after life safety first. Other than that, the next thing I've got to do is make sure I can warn the community. And that was challenging when you'd lost internet, mobile phone, and some radios. It was hard to get a message out to you about what to do, where to be, and what support was available for you. Then we have to look after critical infrastructure. And by critical infrastructure, I mean things like water treatment plants. Because if we don't look after the water treatment plant, then the whole of Melbourne can have a problem with the water quality. And that then magnifies the scale quite significantly. So the initial problems that we identified were the mobile phone coverage. In total, 260 mobile phone towers went down. That's an enormous part of the network that was lost, and it was all in a pretty concentrated sort of area. So normally the telephone companies have quite good overlap of towers. So if one goes offline, you don't normally notice that. But when 260 of them go offline all in one locality, and up here you lost not just Telstra, but Optus, but Vodafone and a couple of others in TPG, when they all go offline, that poses a real challenge. So most of them went offline because they had no power. So in the early stages, the phones worked okay, not great, depending on where you were, but then they've got a battery backup, they've got a generator backup. Because of the damage, we couldn't get access to the towers. So the generators then ran out of fuel, the batteries then ran out of power, the tower goes offline. Some of the towers are also damaged by trees and debris hitting them, and some of the towers are hit by lightning or a thing called high voltage injection. So when the power lines come down, the top lot of power lines are high voltage, the bottom lot of power lines are low voltage. When the two mix, it's a bad thing. You don't want thousands of volts into your system. So sometimes when the technicians went out to bring up a telephone system and boot a tower back up online, it wasn't just the power, the fuel that was out or the power that was off. There was damage to some of the circuitry. So even though that's why sometimes times to restore are a little tricky to actually manifest, because we think it's just going to be the power that requires to go back up. But what we find in reality is there can be damage to some of those sites as well. The most significant impact for us was that limited your ability to call 000. Normally, if Telstra loses a tower or if Optus loses a tower, you'll come up on your phone, you'll see SOS only for calls. And the system's designed that you can then use the other networks to dial back in. But when all the networks are lost, that's really challenging. The SES do have down at the Emerald unit and a phone system called Stand, where you can go outside the unit and dial into their Wi-Fi and use your phone to make 000 calls via the Wi-Fi network. So that mightn't have been as well understood in the community as we had hoped. So to get the phone towers back on, we worked pretty hard with Telstra and our State Control Centre to understand that this is when my area of concern was in Cockatoo and Emerald, and we really needed them to prioritise getting the phone towers back up in both those places. Now, we had them back up on Thursday night. The tricky bit is that gives us some coverage, but in a mountainous terrain, the phone tower that you are on is not always the phone tower which is closest to you. Just because you live in Emerald and you're on the Emerald, you think the Emerald Tower is back up and running. If you're down a valley, sometimes you can be picking up a telephone network from across the other side of the valley rather than the one that's closest to you, because it works by line of sight. So that's why we were very clear in saying the phone system is restored to these locations and it's close to normal, but it might not be the same. So we got that done Thursday night. Took a little while, but we got that restored quickly, and that gave the community the ability to at least call 000 if they needed to, which was really important to us. It also then enabled us to use the Vic Emergency app to start pushing out some messaging and some warnings to you, so you can start to get some information, and that also helps the power companies get out estimated times to restore if they know where you are, and they can push that information out as well, and gives you access to the internet, which then you can start to self-serve and get information about what's happened, because when you've got no information, it's hard to know what to do, what the scale of it is, where to get help, and it's hard for us to communicate that to you as well. Access to roads was also important. I know the Pakenham Road opened today. Thank goodness. I know that was important for the community to get restored. There were some significant works which had to happen in Pakenham Road. There was a lot of large trees, and they had to get a 60-metre boom in there to get those out. So that's been done today, and that road will open again, which is great. For the power company, and I'll let Osnet talk this in more detail, but for the power company to do a time to restore, they need to actually go and visually inspect what's actually happened, because they know the power's off, but they don't know what caused it. Is it a tree? Is it the whole pole down? Is it the transformer that's gone? And all those things take time to actually get and visually inspect every part of the network. When you've got 500,000 people off, it's a lot of faults. It's a lot of things that go out. So sometimes the initial time to restore, when they get there and have a look at the scale of work that's required and what equipment they need, it often gets pushed back a little bit. That's not through any fault of their own. It's just a reality. To help the community get back to normal, we pushed really hard with AusNet and got some generators into Emerald and Cockatoo to liven up the township, because the power network in the town was actually not too badly affected. So we could get a generator in the middle of it. So rather than wait for power to come all the way back up the hill and into here, which is, I suppose, traditionally what's happened a lot of times, we've got a generator in, got the service station running, because we know you all need fuel for cars and generators and chainsaws, and it saves you having to go down to Pakenham or other places. So the fuel station came back up. Supermarket came back up. So even little things, you can go and get a cup of coffee if you need to. Like, some of those things just make a big difference to communities when you've suffered a fair bit of loss. So we got that up and running pretty quickly. That was done by Friday night, Saturday morning, and then it was a matter of trying to expand that supply out to other areas past the township as quickly as we could, once the contractors could actually understand whether the network was safe downstream to actually put the power onto there. The last thing they want to do is put the power on, have live power lines on the ground, because all of us were probably walking over power lines at some point. The Cardinia Shire have done, I think, a great job in looking after the people through their relief hubs down at Cockatoo and Emerald. The staff here have been first rate. Hopefully you've got everything you need. You've got the ability to at least charge some devices and power up some things, have a shower, Wi-Fi here at Cockatoo and Wi-Fi here now, food, water, and most importantly, I think information about what's happening, where, when, and what you can get and what support's available for you. I'd also like to understand that it's not just Cardinia who is helping out. The team here from Port Phillip today. So all the local governments pitch in, and it's one you often get people having a crack at local governments about they should focus on different things. One thing I've noticed about all the local government in the emergency management sector, when there's an emergency, they all lean in, they all help each other out, and they all do the right thing to support the communities. And it's admirable, and I'm very pleased that they're here to support everybody. Cardinia Council were really good at actually helping us identify that the Cockatoo Primary School was a key piece of infrastructure that we needed to get back up and running to take some pressure off parents. So we could then lean back into the state control team and work with AusNet to escalate the priority of getting the power restored to the primary school. So that came to our attention on Saturday or Sunday morning. By Monday morning, we had the power returned to the primary school. Unfortunately, we couldn't get some of the dangerous trees cleared on Monday. They've been done today, and the school will be back open and ready for business tomorrow. So hopefully that takes a bit of pressure off the people in the community. Fortunately, the Emerald Primary School and Emerald Secondary College were in pretty good shape. A lot of trees down, but the buildings were actually not too badly damaged or damaged at all, and that was actually a good result. The last thing I'll say is that most of the people who do the work in these particular facilities and these emergencies are volunteers. They give up their own time to come out and help the community. The SES crews, CFA crews, people from Forest Fire Management Victoria, the Sea community who have been here providing meals, all free of charge. They don't get anything out of that. They just want to help. It's wonderful to be part of a community that actually, when there is an emergency and when people are in need, turn up and shoulder the load and actually get done what needs to get done to support you and get you back. And to the community members themselves who actually help out neighbours and things that we're not even aware of that you actually do. You hope that it's not you, but you understand that if it is you, if you've got some good neighbours, they're worth their weight in gold because they actually get you out of trouble, be it clearing a driveway or making safe, or even just a hot meal and a hot shower at their house if you can't do it at yours. Mark, I'll leave it there if that's okay with you. But as I said, I'm happy to stay here and answer any questions people have got at the end of today or by the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I had a little bit less time allocated for you, Andy, but that was really good. That was really good. And I think we'll come back to, I did have Vic Poll up next, but I think, Scott, we might just come back to you for question time at the end. Is that okay? Yeah, if you've got anything to add there. So thanks again, Andy. And you've been a great support for us as well, making sure we're getting what we need on the ground as well. So thank you for that. And the recognition of council there too. I'd actually like to welcome up Ben from SES to have a chat about all of the work that they've been doing and all that's still to be done, Ben. Sing a little song, mate, while you're there. You go.
Hi, thanks for that. Yeah, I'm Ben Owen, Emerald Controller. We kicked off things during the day, Tuesday the 13th. Soon ramped up when the storm come through. We had multiple rescues at the initial part of the phase. So our priority then was preservation of life. We had people trapped in their homes and people trapped with trees on cars. So that was our initial focus. And that moved on to, once we contained and managed those rescues with obviously SES and CFA crews from across our region come and help with those. Once we ascertained that there was quite a significant storm that come through, we sort of asked for help pretty quick. Within an hour or so, we had quite substantial numbers of CFA crews and SES crews on the ground, initially trying to clear some roads. Over the duration of the event, we had over 500 calls for assistance. As you would have heard, my pager just went on then, so it hasn't stopped. The last few days, we've had relief crews from other SES units come up to give our members a break leading up towards what potentially might come again later in the week with some minor thunderstorm warnings. But as we all know, there's still trees with hanging branches and stuff that cause a bit of a threat. Yeah, so like we said, we had a huge contingent of Forest Fire Management Victoria crews, CFA local crews, and from around the area. So we had as far away from Lock and Heidelberg and up the Yarra Valley. So CFA crews from a wide range come and help us, and SES as the other SES units got on top of their number of RFAs, more and more volunteers were able to come up and help us. Yeah, I think that'll probably do us, Mark. Yep, conscious that you've...
Thank you very much. So thank you, and as you can hear, there's a lot of work happening across the whole affected area. As we said before, we've got our relief centres running here in Cockatoo and Emerald at the moment, but we do know that the effects of this has been much broader, hence why, like I said earlier today, that we're really trying to run this format, which seems to be working okay for the moment, to make sure that we can reach the broadest part of the community. So we know there's up the hill there in Gembrook have been quite affected as well, and there's other pockets of damage as well. So I just wanted to recognise that too. We have AusNet online. I believe we have Ron. Ron, are you okay if I bring you up and you can give us a little bit of an update? And I'll just start monitoring if there's any questions coming through so I can be prepared for the Q&A session at the end. Thanks, Ron.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. As Andy mentioned, we've had a significant event occur in Victoria, and we're more than a week in. So we've had more than 350,000 customers impacted through this event, and we're now down to around 3,000. That number is a bit volatile at the moment because as we start to restore the network, sometimes we've got to switch off a few extras just to make it safe to actually do that rebuild. So numbers will go up and down a little bit at the moment. But the significant areas in Yarra Ranges has been Emerald and in Cardinia, Cockatoo. So I've done a few numbers this afternoon, and Cardinia's still got around about just over 600 customers off in the Cardinia area. And I did some stats this afternoon also on Yarra Ranges, and that's a bit higher up, around 1,300. So there's some significant impact still on the ground out there, and we're conscious of that. And we've got, today we had 350 line crew in the areas, including down Gippsland as well. Murraboo North has been hard hit as well. And we've also had a huge amount of vegetation crews because, as you can appreciate, doing reconstruction, we need to marry up the vegetation crews, the construction crews, line crews, and also traffic management to safely rebuild the electricity network. So that's pretty much where we're at currently. I suggest to people that are wanting to know when they might be coming back on, the best amount of information we've got is the outage tracker link on the web. So you can go to that. But you need to keep in mind also that it's down to the suburb level and not down to the street level. So, and for an instance, Cockatoo has got 12 incidents on at the moment. So there's 12 different areas of damage. That means we've culminated a number of customers in relation to that. Emerald's no different. We've got some bigger events there and across 23 incidents. So as we get a bit closer to reducing the numbers, the granular side of it will reduce and we'll get a little bit more perspective. So that's a little bit on outage tracker. So suggest that where people are possible can get to the internet and see that information. You can type in your suburb and do a filter to that expect. Another one that I just wanted to raise is there is a prolonged power outage payment scheme set up by the government. So this is going to be a payment for people that have been off 7 consecutive days. So AusNet's been charged to administer that. So what we're doing is after Thursday this week, there'll be some data run to find out who qualifies, and AusNet's going to be making contact with every customer that qualifies. So everything over 7 days. And that's from when the event started back on the 13th through to the qualifying period's begun at 1 minute past midnight today. So there'll be more information to come out on that. There is different fees that will be paid in regards to a residential customer or to a business customer, as long as their payroll is under, I think it's $10 million, they will qualify for a payment also. So there's going to be a lot more information shared on AusNet's website, but there is a certain amount of information there already outlining the payment values and when this will commence. Now, AusNet, as I said, has been charged to administer this on behalf of the government because we have the data. One thing I've learnt this afternoon is, and typically a question I've been asked today is, okay, if I qualify, when do I get paid? So pleasingly, that's not going to be weeks down the track. There will be a form to fill in regards to the qualification. Post that form being received, it's electronic form, that'll be washed through the data, and on qualification, payments will be made EFT, so electronic funds transferred to the bank account of the person making that inquiry. That will commence the rollout of payments from Monday next week, as long as we've got a form in and it qualifies. So there's a bit going on in that space. There's likely, I think, GSL payments to guaranteed service level payments, people been off for more than 12 consecutive hours. We're a heavily regulated industry, and customers will receive a $90 payment in regards to that, which is part of our business model that already exists. The government one, however, is over and above that, so that will be more expanded on knowledge and who qualifies and who doesn't. So keep an eye on our website for that. I think that just about wraps me up, Mark.
Thank you so much, Ron. And I will say it's been great to have your staff out here at the centres to answer some questions as well about, particular streets and trying to marry that up to the outage tracker and things like that. So I just wanted to say thanks for that, because there, obviously was a bit of confusion, particularly with people not having internet access as well. So thanks. Next up, I'd like to invite Thisha from DFFH just to talk about Department of Families, Fairness and Housing updates. Thank you, Thisha.
Oh, it's Lauren Burke here, Mark. Can you hear me?
Oh, thank you, Lauren.
No worries. Thank you. Lauren Burke here from the Department of Families, Fairness and Housing. Currently, the Department of Families, Fairness and Housing are supporting impacted community members with our personal hardship and relief payments. So our emergency payments are predominantly for people that have had direct damage caused to their home by this particular event, or they've been in an evacuation zone and they've got some residual relief needs that haven't been met elsewhere. So, for example, this might be a tree that's down on your house, so it's damaged your house. It might you might have some roof damage, some flooding that's impacted your primary place of residence, and this has resulted in extreme hardship for yourself financially. So just to reiterate, this does need to be a property that is your primary place of residence. Our relief payments are designed to provide that immediate support to people. So for example, that might be food, medication, water, accommodation, etc. And those needs haven't been able to be met elsewhere. So maybe through family and friends, through the relief hubs that have been set up, or within your own family network. A couple of questions we get asked really regularly is how do we access these payments? And we access the payments through either speaking to your local government, going down to the closest relief hub, or making the call to the 1800 560 760 recovery hotline. So you'll go through to someone on the hotline, you'll have a conversation about your situation, and then someone at the Department of Families, Fairness and Housing will make contact with you to have a discussion about your eligibility. So DFFH have currently supported just over 80 requests for relief support specifically to the Cardinia area. And I know my colleagues, DFFH colleagues in the East, have supported many communities across that Yarra Ranges area that have been impacted by this event as well. It is a one-off payment. You don't have to make a repayment on the payment. So once you receive the payment, the financial support is yours. Payments can take up to 5 business days to land in your bank account. There are alternate arrangements that we can discuss on a one-on-one basis for people that need more immediate support through that payment. I think that's it in terms of the relief payments. I will ask my colleague Thisha, who's online, just to drop in the key messages around our payments, the frequently asked questions, how you can access that 1800 line. I would like to take the opportunity as well to just acknowledge the impact that this event has had on community. Not only this event, but the many events that have impacted this community and the surrounding communities over the last 3 or 4 years, acknowledging that there are quite a lot of psychosocial supports that are available through people, through several agencies, including Red Cross and VCC, who I know have been out on the ground. I'll share some key messages through Thisha as well that DFFH have put out for distribution. We'll send those to council, but we can also put that in the chat for people to refer to. I'd also like to acknowledge that the recovery process is a really personal journey, encourage people to reach out for support when they feel like they need to do so, but also encourage everyone to reach into people that they feel like might need some support as well. And really just a shout out to local governments who have been working around the clock on this, hoping that everyone gets their questions answered today, and I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lauren. So I just wanted to, at this point, just remind anyone who's online, and there's quite a few there, just to put any questions you've got up in the chat, and also in the room here. If you can write them down and provide them to Greg, that would be fantastic. If not, I will open it up to the floor, but it's just going to be a bit hard with the, the space and the noise. So if you can write them down and get them to Greg, that would be fantastic. They'll end up on my computer here, and we'll go through them. But just a little bit of a idea of what's already here, maybe to save you duplicating as well. We've got a question about whether there'll be some consistency around schools and when notifications going out about school closures, about the power grants. So I can ask that question around, the 7 days and what happens for longer periods of time. We've got one there about the outage tracker, which we may need a little bit more information about. How do you actually drill down to find out which outage is your outage? We also have just a question about the relief centres as well. So hopefully I can answer that at the end. But if there's any other questions that you don't think are covered by those that we'll cover, please put them in via the chat if you're online, or you can give them to Greg here and our IT person at Emerald as well. If you can do that, that'd be great. All right. So next up, I would like to welcome Rochelle, who is the team leader of Emerald and Cockatoo Emergency Support Team, to tell us a little bit about what they do. They've been doing some great work with us and helping the community, but just a little bit of an update from Rochelle and a little bit about your team.
Thanks very much, Mark. I appreciate the opportunity to let the community know a little bit more about who we are and what we do. So the Cockatoo and Emerald Emergency Support Team are the local people helping the local people. So all of our volunteers are storm affected, just the same as you guys. We all live in the local area. Most of us have now got power back in the last couple of days, but 2 or 3 of our volunteers are still without power. So we understand the experience because we're living through it as a part of the community with you. We've had about 20 volunteers who've activated across this event at 2 centres here and at Emerald. So the night of the storm, I was at the SES getting an update on what was going on and assisting with triaging some calls there with some of our volunteers who came in very quickly. And then 9 o'clock the next morning, we had volunteers at both centres. So we were able to respond quite quickly. That was really tough with no comms. I was driving around to volunteers' houses, knocking on the door saying, can you come and help? So as I said, we're all impacted as well. The first 3 days we were running this building and the Emerald building off domestic generators to provide device charging, community barbecue, food relief and personal welfare support. We use our local knowledge to help people engage with the relief centres. It's that local knowledge. When you come in and you say, I live on this street, and we go, oh, we know that big hill, that big tree, that big drain, where you are. And then we can use that information to help advocate for targeted support directly to where it needs to go. So we lobbied really hard alongside council to get the fuel delivery, the community generators, and to make sure that the relief centres remain open to provide the support as long as there's a need for that support. I would like to do a quick shout out to the local businesses who have been able to trade. They've supported us hugely with donated food, catering equipment and so forth. So the Cockatoo IGA and Woolworths in Emerald have been amazing. Thank you so very much. The Emerald Footy Club, Cardinia Shire Council, the Seeks in Officer, ADRA for the fresh food, the Bless Collective who've donated some kids snacks and food as well. We've worked with information and shared information locally between the SES, the churches, some tradespeople to get a community washing machine up and running. So really using those local connections. And also we've had some fantastic spontaneous volunteering. So people have come in and said, we want to help clean up a property. So we've been able to share their information up on the community notice boards. People can come in and say, oh, I need somebody with a chainsaw, I need a plumber, I need a this, I need a that. And as recently as today, we had a local counselling business put their number up there as well for some mental health support. So lastly, I would like to say a huge thank you to our 20 plus volunteers who've just jumped in and rolled with it. And an extra big thank you to the 6 new ones who've joined us in the last week. They want to get involved and help people despite the fact that they're also affected. And the biggest thanks of all to our families who have held the fort. So thanks, and back to you, Mark.
Thank you very much, Rochelle. And yeah, it has been just unbelievable having local people to find out who we can ask to assist with things. And I think that example of the washing machine now at St. Luke's Church there is a good example of that. Rochelle was able to organise a plumber to get out late notice to get the right tap in, and then council were able to lean on their contacts to get a washing machine out there. So we wouldn't have been able to do that without those local contacts and connections. So we thank you so much, and it's just invaluable for us. Lastly, it's over to me. So unfortunately, you have to listen to me a little bit just to give you an update on what council is offering. So as you know, we have the relief centres. I've covered that. We are looking at getting some showers into Cockatoo here. We're organising that currently. We will put that out at the relief centres and also online when they become available. As you heard from AusNet, there's going to be some people that will be out for extended periods of time. So we wanted to make sure that if power's out, we're here to support you with those charging facilities, showering, etc., and the laundry facilities now at St. Luke's, which is fantastic. Here also, we've had the emergency support team with Rochelle and her crew. Thank you so much. Organising food as well. So there's seems to be a constant trickle of food throughout the day. And then we've had our amazing Seek volunteers who you might have seen earlier, and hopefully you've had a chance to have some of their food, have been dropping those meals off too to support residents, which has been fantastic. And it's also great just to bring the community together so you can have a chat, support each other, and obviously talk to us to find out, any new information or support that's available for you. So please continue to do that. Please continue to pop into the relief centres, have a chat to the council staff. If we don't know the answer, we will make sure that we go out and we find the answer for you, and we will get back to you. So just wanted to push that. We also do have showers available for those that aren't up in the hills here too. So we have the Kurirup outdoor pool, which is open for showers. Cardinia Life in Pakenham is open for showers, and the Pakenham Regional Tennis Centre too. So you don't have to come all the way up onto the hill. There's some options, hopefully much closer to you. But obviously, if we see needs coming through, council's role is to really try to fill those gaps if we can, to the best of our ability and within our resources, obviously. But we're here, so if there's anything that you need, please have a chat, and if we can't provide it, we'll endeavour to find out who can. A couple of things that have already come up. I've got a list of questions here, but I thought I would just provide an update on the green waste situation. There's a few nods in the room here, maybe in Emerald as well. But we have been able to organise free tip drops for the green waste off your property. Now, we understand not everybody has a trailer or a car or the means to chop that up, get it into a trailer and move it to a facility. But for those who can, that is there for you. We also can pick up from your curbside if you do a hard waste collection booking. So you can book that through the council website and they will come out and pick that green waste up off your property. And I believe from what I was told by the waste team earlier, that's 4 cubic meters of waste at a go. And you can do a double booking. So that's actually quite a lot of green waste. Now, I understand that's still only helping the people that can actually chop it up and get it to the front of their property. So council, as part of the recovery effort, will try to link in with some volunteer organisations and see what other support we can get for those individuals that can't make that happen. And we'll be advocating for more funding and support as time goes on as well. So let's jump into the questions that I have here. And I'll just pose them to the panel members, and then we'll just give them a second to organise the tech and get up. Run through them. Again, most of the themes I think are very similar. We have one here about Cardinia Shire sending trucks around to remove green waste. Yes, for residents, you can book that, and that will occur. So that's almost not business as usual for us. It's obviously there's going to be a lot more people needing that service, but you can still book it through the usual process. Now over to AusNet. One for you, AusNet. We can probably amalgamate 2 questions in here at once. Is there any way that we can get incident numbers to check against the outage tracker? So I think you kind of touched on it before, but when you've got 23 incidents in the Hills area, it's hard to figure out which street you actually fit in. So is there any more information you can provide on that one, Ron?
Yeah, I can't provide too much more information other than we did have an overload on our outage tracker usage earlier in the event. Normally it's graphical, and so you're able to zoom in on a location and get some more specific detail. Users will have noticed that we've had to scale back to a table. So everything's in table format at the moment. Our IT people have been working pretty hard to get that up and running again. It will not be up tonight, I've just been advised, but they are working diligently to get that up to the normal technology that was being used. It is a bit of a tricky one, and I do understand that if there is 12 incidents and they're all mentioning Cockatoo and they have a different estimated time of restoration, it's a difficult equation for a customer to know, well, where do I fall? Which one am I? So at this stage, that's not being very helpful on the website. I get that, but I'm happy to take some on notice and feedback to individuals as I can. But at the moment, that's not available via the table that we've reduced to currently with Outage Tracker.
Great, thanks, Ron. We might just stick with AusNet for now in the room. Is there any other questions? Yeah, I've got one over here. If it's a specific property, that's going to take a lot of time. We can take that offline and we'll get the answer for you. Yep, I've got a few ones that come through. If we open that up, it's going to take some time, and I'm cognizant we've only got 15 minutes with these, but I assure you we will get all those questions to him and he can take them on notice. I do have a few other streets that have come through the Q&A, so we'll get that as a big list and you can answer them in one big chunk. How does that sound, Ron?
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm happy to do some analysis on the individuals and report back. Yeah. So yes, we will, but just in the interest of time. Any others that aren't specific streets? Yep. No. Yeah, no worries. Yes.
from what I understand, so the question for those people online and who couldn't hear the question here was around, will there be more regulations coming in place, and this could be an AusNet question, to be more power resilient, so automatically have those abilities to plug in a generator without having to, have a changeover switch go in retrospectively? Have I got that question right? Yeah. Is there any projects in the boil for energy resilience, I guess?
Look, it's a really good question. Generators are another source of supply, alternate to the distribution network. So what we do is we err on safety in that respect, because we can't afford whole houses to be supplied by a generator, because it can become a safety issue if it's not done correctly. And you're right, homes don't accommodate that currently. And to give an example, ESV have been supporting DECA in regards to generator installations in some cases, and they are sending a safety person out to highlight all the issues that can be associated with generator supplied power. So there'd be a lot in that space to cover off on a safety aspect.
Great, thank you very much. Any other questions for AusNet of a general nature in the room here? Yes? Oh, okay, just a... Yep. So Ron, and for everyone who is not in the room here, just a question around, and a few people have reported this to us, that the power was off at 10 a.m. here prior to the actual event, and they're just curious as to why that might have been the case.
Yeah, if people were off supply before the actual storm event came through, we do have a number of people that do periodically lose supply, in other words, fault. That's part of our normal BAU that can be faulted. So again, the payments that the government's looking at is from that event for 7 days. However, AusNet will filter anyone that wants to escalate and say, well, I believe I qualify because I went off prior to the 13th and was still off through that period. And I understand that too, because if it was a significant power outage affecting you and then we're hit by a storm, you become messed up with all the other outages as well, and you might be off for some time. I can probably just give a little bit of, I think I did hear a question earlier in regards to, should someone stay off for another 7 days, so a second component. These payments from the government will revisit every week for 3 weeks. So we're not hoping to have anyone off for 2 weeks, but should someone go off for 14 days consecutive from the event date, they will be eligible for a second payment, and they'll be able to reapply, and as long as they qualify, they'll get a second payment. The payments are relevant to the NIMI, the National Meter Identifier. So that's what we call our customer. So it's relevant to individual NIMIs, and it needs to be the person that's in charge of that account. Just for perspective, for a residential household, it's $1,920. For a small business, it's $2,927. So I encourage people, if they've got access to the network, hop on the AusNet website. I did put a link in the chat as well. It does set out a bit more information in regards to prolonged power outage payment, and there will be more published on our website. Hopefully a bit of Q&A around that space as well.
No, around the 10 a.m. I guess just that. I think he said at the start, Ron, sorry, I'm just trying to paraphrase what you said at the start there, that 10 a.m., did we hear that 10 a.m. Closure was because of maintenance? Was that unscheduled? because the power was off at 10 a.m. on that fire danger day. Yeah. To then go off again.
Yeah. So the qualification is from the 13th.
Okay. We may look. This is one with he may need to get some additional information. We will close the loop on that one. Would that be fair, Ron?
Yeah. No, that's fine. I think the qualification's from the 13th. So that can be before the storm hit.
No, he's not. He's not asking. Sorry, they're not asking about the payments. They're just wondering why the power was off before the storm event.
I can take them on notice and look into the
history. Okay. We'll look at those and we'll get you the answers. That's our commitment for this information session. Yes, Rochelle? Okay. 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 So for those in other venues and online, we just heard from Rochelle here. It may because of the residual current unit at Belgrave, that sensitivities turned up on high bushfire days may have been triggered more easily and cut out and then therefore was restored later. But we'll get that answer for you and we'll also find out why you weren't informed of that. Thank you for the question. Yep. Okay. Okay. Yep. So Ron, just another one for you, and then we'll take you off the hot seat. Just one about someone had their power restored for a short period of time during this week period for it to then be cut off again. Just curious whether they would still be eligible for that payment.
I guess technically no, but AusNet's going to be looking at those finer details and trying to be have some integrity around that as well. So they will look at the circumstances per customer. If they've put a claim in via the online form, it'll be assessed and it can be, there will be an escalation point if there's no agreement, I guess, with the determination. But I believe that's going to go up to DECA and government as well. But I think there will be some tolerances. I just can't say how much.
No, great. All right. I'm not sure if you could hear from the room here, but just asking about why that was a 7-day period and not pro rata for the amount of days that you're off. But I don't think you can answer that now, Ron. I think we'll wait for a bit more of a response on that we can push out, unless you can.
Look, just quickly, the rules weren't made by AusNet. We're the administrator of the rules and also the payments. So it's been set by the government.
Okay, thank you. Now, I've got some other questions here, which I'm not sure where they're coming in from, whether they're either the sites or from individuals. However, a question here around the Emerald Library and the Hills Hub were affected and had no power. And are there plans for generators at those sites to make sure they can get online as quickly as possible? Again, I think that's one we'll need to take on notice. I believe we did get power to that site, but it always could be quicker. So yes, that is something we will take on notice. And there's a whole range of agencies and organisations that are involved in that, so we'll have a chat to them. We've talked about the incident numbers. Can anyone talk to the weather on Thursday, and if there should be any concern about the weather on Thursday? Can anyone in the room take that one? maybe looking
Mark,
at Andy.
It's Andrew. I can give you an update on the weather for Thursday and Wednesday. Wednesday looks reasonably good. No significant issues in this area on Wednesday. You will notice that on Thursday, the weather forecast has just come out at 5 o'clock tonight. So the Central District has now been rated as an extreme fire risk, but that's not for the area here. The people who are in Emerald Centre, I can show you the mapping. Because we're part of the Central Weather Forecast District, that's a big district, and it also includes areas around Werribee and there. They're the ones that are going to be in the extreme. We only get the very high here, so nowhere near any of the triggers. And if you look around, there's probably good reason for that. It's reasonably green, and there's not a huge amount of fire potential here at this point in time. So although the Central District is extreme, the footprint of our area is not. Thunderstorms are a risk. I'll get you in 1 sec. Yep. Thunderstorms are also a risk for Thursday. They will be potentially severe. The Bureau doesn't do their thunderstorm forecasting for about 2 days. So the thunderstorm forecast will come out tomorrow, giving us a better indication of what Thursday looks like. It's not available at the moment. And you can, the weather's hard to predict at best of times, so predicting thunderstorms and intensities is very challenging. So that's why they leave it for about 2 days. And there's a question in the room here. Over there. Correct. The question in the room here was around about our schools got different information around the weather forecasting for the district was saying it was going to be very high or extreme, and the schools got different information. So the schools work on local government areas, which is good, because the last thing we want to do is close a school when the risk is not justifiable to do that. So, but I understand it does cause some confusion. So I'll take that back to the Department of Education and see if I can get them to clarify that. I spoke to them today around the weather forecast, and they were certainly looking to, again, go down to a granular level of local government area rather than the central forecasting area, because it makes better sense. One more question here, Mark. That's correct. So it was about the total fire ban declaration being called. So I'll take that back to the Department of Education for you. One more question here, Mark.
Might be a long one.
Fair enough. So there was a question about childcare and when extreme ratings kick in for the Central Business District or Central District of Victoria, that affects them as they use that weather district as their trigger to actually close. So happy to talk to you offline about some specifics around that. Mark, back to you.
Thank you very much for looking after that over there, Andy. Oh, yes. Andy, there's one question from you for you. Yes.
We had no idea that was coming. There was a lot we could. The generators ready. But we weren't born.
Yeah, and that was a question that came through the Q&A too a few times. So I'm not sure if you can talk to that, Andy, around warnings for storm events like this, like the fire events. Was there a reason that wasn't able to get out for this particular event? SMS they're talking about.
So it's a good question, Mark. So the State Control Centre normally issues the warnings for storms because they're in direct contact with the Bureau of Meteorology. It's not done at a regional or local level because we don't have that information with us. So the meteorologists are sitting in the State Control Centre and they normally advise when they can see a significantly damaging storm that a warning should go out. I don't know whether they did that on this occasion. I'll follow that up and get back to you with an answer.
Thank you so much. A quick one here too, just around when I mentioned the waste. People were just wondering, does that come out of our other hard waste allocations? No. So you can book 2 hard waste collections or a double collection for your green waste, and it won't affect your normal allocation of hard waste. Just a question there about that. And let me see what I've got here. There was one more that I wanted to get to. Oh, and just a suggestion that I wanted to acknowledge. So thank you. The Emerald Centre was a little bit tucked away as a bit of feedback, and that it would have been good to have centres more, signs more close to the front, and also at the IGA to promote that. So we'll take that on board. Thank you. And look, there's a whole bunch of other questions here, but a lot of them are quite specific. So we will, like I said, get an answer to all of your questions, and we'll package them up and get them out. Any more from the room before I move on? Yep. Yep. The community centre, yes. So there was 2 questions here around Gembrook, just saying quite affected as well, and we want to acknowledge that, and that the fact that the service station is still offline now. We've still got Ron here. Is there any? I know it's hard to give timeframes, but because that is a significant piece of infrastructure, is that something that is being worked on as a priority to get that service station back online? Is there any information you can give us about that?
Just on notice, no, I'd have to actually look into the computer system to get some understanding of that, but I can definitely do that and come back.
Okay, thank you, because it is a bit of a travel now that we do have Emerald online, the service station. You know, that's still quite a travel. So we'll get the answer on that. And as for the community centre, that is something that council can take on. I guess we had two relief centres set up. There was times where we couldn't get up into there, and then these kind of became the hubs, but we'll definitely have that on the agenda for next time. And we do have good relationships with the community group up there. So that's something we can look at, but it was around access for a period of time that we couldn't get right up in there. That's true, I know. And then there's been a lot of comments here around what do we do when we've got no reception and no internet. And they're some bigger questions that I don't think we can unpack tonight, but we'll get some answers around what could be done in the future to try to future-proof. Like, here's a good example. Stu and his team are here today from EM, either online or in person. And up the back here at Cockatoo, we've actually got an internet system that remains online, so that we do have connectivity even if there is an event. So I think as time moves on and we have more technology coming online, there are options we can look at to future-proof us. As the gentleman over here before said around, you know, being prepared for these types of things as they arise while things are being put in place. Yeah. Any more questions over there, Andy, before I wrap up here?
Yeah, just one thing, Mark. Just we've got reps from Yarra Valley Water here, and also I believe a Cockatoo. So if anyone's got any questions about pressure sewers and what to do with those, how to reinstate those and get them working again, got a lovely rep from Yarra Valley Water here who'll be happy to answer all of your questions. And hopefully you can identify the one down at Cockatoo, please.
Yep, great. Do we have Yarra Valley Water here? Oh, there you are. There he is, our gentleman there. I'm staying behind, so you can talk to me from a council perspective. We've got Ben that's staying behind, so please feel free to stay, have some more food, have a chat to us. Again, I just want to assure everyone this is recorded. We've got all the questions in the Q&A. We'll make sure that we get all those answers, and we'll push them out through the relief centres, and we'll attach them to the copy of this video on our council website as well. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for persevering with us. This is the first time we've done an in-person and hybrid meeting. So thank you so much for your attendance here at Emerald and also online. And thank you very much. See you later.